Welcome to the Achiever Universal Track Carrier training video. This particular Universal Track Carrier is outfitted with a Terex TC55 High Ranger aerial. I usually like to start my walk around with the vehicle on the trailer. In consideration that most pieces of equipment live on their trailers, we're going to start to walk around on the trailer. So what I'm looking for with my walk around the trailer is I'm checking the oil level in the oil hubs, and most particularly I'm checking my track for any signs of wear or damage. This section of the track right here is known as the crosslink. This is the tire guide, and this is a back-end plate. It's not unusual for these machines to take a little bit of track damage every year. Most of it is be minor, and it's not going to stop you from working, but you do want to make sure you see what's going on and not let it get out of hand. So you're going to inspect it, make sure that all the crosslinks are in place. None of them are loose on one side, none of the bolts are broken. Make sure that all the tire guides are intact. And one of the things you want to watch for in tire guides, this portion here, I'm going to call it the ear. This can get bent. If you pick up some type of rock or something on the trail, it might get in here and bend this tire guide. If it bends the ear out, don't worry about it, just keep on working. But if you ever see one that manages to get bent in, then you have a bit of an issue, because every time it goes around, it's going to start tearing up the road wheels, the idler, or the sprocket in the back. So if you ever see one that's been bent in, maybe just take a hammer to it, hit it with a hammer, and try to break the ear off entirely. These are hardened steel, so once they're bent, they're usually pretty easy to break off. Another thing you might see is back-end plate missing. The bolts have been snapped off on one side, and the crosslink will be loose on one side. You probably won't even notice when it happens, but try to get on top of it when you get back to the bar and let the mechanics know, and they can deal with it. For the most part, these tracks are going to keep you going every day. They're not going to take damage, it's going to shut you down. So just keep an eye on it. Don't let it get out of hand. The other thing I like to check when it's up on the trailer is track tension. I usually check it at the third road wheel right here, and what I do is I just put my hand on top of the road wheel like that, and I try to lift the track with my thumb. If this one's a little bit loose right now, I can't quite lift it. It's probably perfectly okay to operate like this. New machines, the track takes a little bit of a set. So for about the first 6 months, 100 hours maybe, the belts are going to continue to stretch. The track's going to take a little bit more attention for the first 6 months and for the rest of its life. So if you're going to tension up your tracks, what you do is up in the front of the machine, right up here we have the track tension grease ports, one for the right hand track and one for the left hand track. You just hit it with a grease gun, pump it up a little bit, and you're good to go. But they're going to operate well over a wide variety of track tension. So I continue my walk around with the vehicle on the trailer. I would check my other side, my other track, the same as I just checked this side. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take it off the trailer and we're going to continue the walk around. Now that we have the vehicle off the trailer, I'm going to continue my walk around. Some of the things I'm going to check for: I'm going to make sure that my plow is in good condition, there's no damage to my cylinders, and my plow hasn't been bent. I'm going to continue to check my track on the opposite side. We'll make sure there's no loose objects on the deck, everything's tightened down well. Ladders are intact, no loose objects on the deck. And my pintle hook is functioning properly. And for this version, that's about it for the walk around. A couple more things on this side. So we'll edit that out and we'll just restart. And over here we have the hydraulic oil tank. The oil level should be within the arrows when the vehicle's on level ground and the oil's at 50 degrees Celsius, so somewhere around there. DEF tank is inside here. The DEF tank is size proportioned to the fuel tank. And it's 40 US gallon fuel tank in this machine. Should be good for about 12 hours normal endurance, and you should fill the DEF tank every time you fill the fuel tank. Final drives in the back. If you ever have any problems with this vehicle where it becomes immobile when it's off-road and you have to tow it, you're going to have to disengage the final drives. In order to disengage the final drives, what you're going to do is you're going to loosen up these 3 screws right here. You're going to take this blue plate off, flip it around so the dimple is in, and then when you put that plate back in, it's going to push a shaft in, and that's going to disengage the final drive. Remember, when you disengage the final drive, you're also going to disengage the brakes. So make sure the vehicle has the outriggers down, it's blocked, or you've made some other effort to ensure that it doesn't run away on you. This vehicle is equipped with grounding straps in the front and rear. This is copper-clad steel right here, so if you clamp onto that, the whole chassis will be grounded. This vehicle is equipped with 2 D-rings in the front and 2 D-rings in the back. These are rated for 18,000 pounds each. This vehicle is built right now is approximately 20,000 pounds, so you can use these for both tie down and vehicle recovery. If you're going to use them for vehicle recovery and the machine is really stuck or you have to pull it in an oblique angle, we recommend that you put a bridle across both D-rings just to split the load across both of them. This is the battery box. Inside here you're going to find the battery master switch right here. We have a couple of maiden breaker right here, and there's a couple of other electrical components inside here. We also have a small storage compartment for any additional tools you may have, small tools that may fit in there. Some of the features on the tail shelf of this machine is right back here. We have the engine start and stop control. We have the rear light switch. You can use these as work lights. These are also the reverse lights on the machine. So whenever this machine is backing up, these lights come on. We have the 12-volt boom pump right here. Outrigger interlock override right over here and a momentary contact switch. The outriggers have to be down to about 75 degrees before this boom will operate. Should anything ever go wrong with the system and you want to bring the boom down, you can use the momentary contact override for that. And the selector switch for the outriggers or aerials. 3-position switch. Bottom for outriggers, middle is off, and up is for aerial. We also have a 12-volt outlet back here for the winch. The electric winches can go into the pintle hook receiver right here. Fuel filler right here, 40-gallon tank, good for about 12 hours normal endurance. We have access handles. We have the lower one down here and the upper one up here, so you can always maintain 3-point of contact when you're getting into the cab. This one is particularly helpful when the vehicle is up on the outriggers. Some of the other cab features right here, we have slope indicators, side by side and front and rear. We rate this machine for 15 degrees side by side, and we climb about 40 degrees front and rear on it right here. Small engine access door right here. And we have the operations manual inside this box right here. Back here behind the driver's seat, we have a conventional 12-volt outlet for any accessories, and we also have a USB charger port right there. Okay, some of the dash features in this unit, starting over here on the right-hand side, we have the horn right here, we have the beacon light on top, we have the interior dome light, we have the rear work lights, and the front headlights right here. Brake release I'll explain in a minute. The ignition switch on this machine is only wired on the start and run position, so the accessory position on this one is not hooked up to anything. Over here, if this vehicle is a closed cab and equipped with a heater, this would be for the heater blower, and this is the auxiliary hydraulic switch. So whenever you want the aerial to work or the outriggers to work, this aerial hydraulic switch has to be in the on position. On will be indicated by the green light right there. Okay. Starting the unit, I'm going to turn the key to the right. We're going to wait for the dash to wake up. Our logo is going to come on, and we can't start yet, but now that the gauges are on, we can start the engine. This is the engine information display. It's going to give you the engine oil pressure right here. It's going to give you the hydraulic oil temperature here. It's going to give you the TAC is right here, giving you the engine RPM. It's going to give you the fuel level right here, and it's going to give you the engine coolant temperature right here. This red outline on the outside of the dash and the park and brake symbol means that the park and brake is on right now. I'm going to give you a little bit more detail on the park and brake in a moment. On the second screen, we're going to continue to have the hydraulic oil temperature. You're going to have the engine hours on this one. It's going to give you the DEF level, and it's going to give you the battery voltage. In the event that anything happens with the hand throttle over here and it doesn't respond properly, it's possible to override. I'm going to hold this for 3 seconds. And now I can increase the throttle here or decrease the throttle here. And I can cancel it right here when I no longer need it. And this would be the entrance port for the diagnostics. Okay, back to the home screen. I'm going to start the engine. Remember, as long as this red outline is here, the park and brake is on. In order to release the park and brake, I have to pull the silver knob and press the red button. Park and brake is off, but watch what happens. When I release this red button right now, the park and brake comes back on. That's because on this unit, as a safety feature, the park and brake is interlocked to the seat belt. If my seat belt is not connected, my park and brake won't release. I'm going to start her up one more time. I'm going to pull the silver knob, I'm going to press the red button, my park and brake is off and it's staying off, so now I'm good to drive. Right here we have the steering joysticks, both forward for forward, both backwards for reverse, and we can steer by turning them in different directions. Okay, back to the dash and the park and brake. When I want to use the auxiliary hydraulics, I have to engage my parking brake, which I can do by either pushing in this silver knob, or if I just release my seatbelt, my parking brake's going to come on. Now that my parking brake is on, I can turn my auxiliary hydraulics on. So now my boom and outriggers will be working. If I turn my parking brake off, my auxiliary hydraulics kick out automatically. So whenever you're driving this machine, your auxiliary hydraulics are not engaged. Put my parking brake on by pushing in the silver knob. Over on this side, we have the hand throttle. We also have the high speed, low speed selector switch right here. This is a 2-speed hydrostatic transmission. The speed can be changed while you're driving anytime. Typically for maneuvering, you're going to have it in low speed. It's going to steer a lot better. You're going to get 4 miles an hour out of it in low speed. When you go into high speed, it's really best for just straight line travel, and you're going to get about 8 miles an hour out of it in high speed. And you can change that any time, stationary or moving. This switch over here is the plow control. This is just a fixed up and down plow. Now we're going to set up on the machine on outriggers, and we're going to start using the aerial. I'm going to start the engine back here. I'm going to select outriggers over here. Okay, these outriggers have a pretty long reach on them. They'll jack the machine quite high up in the air as well. Best working position is just with some weight on, good weight on the outrigger feet. Depending on the terrain, softer terrain, you might want to put a little bit more weight on the outrigger feet. And try to keep one portion of the track on the ground at all times, okay? There's not a lot of suspension travel in these machines, so there's not a lot of overturning moment from the suspension. So just make sure you have good weight on the outriggers and you're good to go. In the event that the engine has stopped functioning and you have to tow the machine and recover it from the field, it's possible to raise the outriggers with the 12-volt pump. I'm going to put the selector control in the outriggers position. I'm going to operate the 12-volt pump through the push button. Now, I'll be able to raise the outriggers and get them back into the storage position with the 12-volt pump should I have to. It's important to level up this machine within ±5 degrees. We have slope indicators on the rear of the tower and on both sides. Under the ANSI standards that we built to, we verify the stability at 5 degrees at a level. If it goes beyond 5 degrees at a level, stability is no longer guaranteed. Okay, so bear that in mind. Try to keep this machine within ±5 degrees. So as you can see, we have a lot of outrigger reach on these machines, so it is possible to get it leveled up on some pretty uneven terrain. So try to keep it within ±5 degrees. You should be able to work in most off-road conditions. Remember, however, this is not a safe working condition, okay? So always try to keep one portion of the track on the ground at any given time. So there we go, the machine is leveled up within ±5 degrees. There's good weight on the outriggers, and now we're ready to deploy the aerial. Okay, remember this machine is equipped with outrigger interlocks. There's a proximity switch right inside here. The outriggers have to be deployed to about 75 degrees on the lower leg in order for the proximity switches to trip, and in that case the boom will start functioning. If they're above that angle, if they haven't tripped the proximity switch, then the boom will not function at that point. Okay. Should there ever be a problem with the proximity switch system, we do have the override switch over here that will allow you to operate the boom while you're holding the switch. Okay, this is an off-road machine, and as such it's equipped with some pretty high lift outriggers. Right now I'm going to lift it up all the way. So you can see we can jack this machine up pretty high in the outrigger legs. So when you're on uneven terrain, it's pretty easy to level this machine up on some pretty uneven slopes, okay? But bear in mind, this is not a safe working condition. You always want to try to have one portion of the track on the ground. So just level it up, raise it up as little as possible to have it within that plus minus 5 degrees, and try to leave one portion of the track on the ground. In order to use the aerial, we're going to put the selector switch up in the aerial position. And that's it for that. I'm going to get my harness on, and I'm going to go up in the bucket. Okay. Now we have the auxiliary selector switch on the dash is in the on position. The selector switch on the tail shelf is in the aerial position. So now we're good to operate the aerial. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to go up in the front, and I'm going to undo the front boom latch right here. I'm just going to make sure that's off. And I'm going to undo the rear boom latch as well. Okay, at the lower controls, we have an engine start-stop control. And we also have a maintain contact switch for the 12-volt pump right here. So if you have somebody up in the air and the engine is stopped and you have to bring them down, you'll be able to turn this on, use the lower selector, and then work with these controls to bring your boom down. 12-volt pumps are only good for about 3 minutes use under pressure. It's okay to idle them, they're not doing any work, but once you're pressurizing them, they're only good for about 3 minutes, okay? So after a few minutes of operation, turn it off and let it cool down. Otherwise you might burn it out. It's somewhat similar to a starter motor back there, it's only good for so much use. Okay, from the lower controls position, we have the selector right here. When we want to work in the bucket, we're going to push it into the upper position, in the maintain position. If we're going to work from the lowers, we're going to pull it out, and this is momentary, so you're going to have to hold it whenever you use any of the other lower controls. So starting right here, we're going to have our rotation, push for clockwise, pull for counterclockwise, upper boom right there, unfold and fold, lower boom, up and down, platform tilt, if you want to dump the water out of the platform, right here, counterclockwise, clockwise, and for the jib winch right here, up and down. Because we're going to be working from the bucket, we're going to put the selector in the upper control position.